Dana, we are waging a 21st century information warfare campaign against the left, and they are using tactics from the 1990s.
Really?
They are holding tiny press conferences, tiny little rallies. They're screaming into the ether on MSNBC. This is what you call top-down command and control. You get your talking points from a newspaper, and you put it on the broadcast network, and then it disappears. What you're seeing on the right is asymmetrical. It's like grassroots guerrilla warfare. Someone says something on social media, Musk retweets it, Rogan podcasts it, Fox broadcasts it, and by the time it reaches everybody, millions of people have seen it. It's free money. And we're actually talking about expressing information. They are suppressing information. If you watch CBS News, they don't even talk about the scandals that the money is going to. Sri Lankan transgenders are getting electric cars. It's costing millions of dollars.
What?
They don't tell you about that.
When the base of the party is so potty trained, right? So devoid of critical thought, these brains so broken from decades of propaganda, the intern sniffer right here, he can tell them to their faces what the game is in only 1 minute. He describes how easy it is to trap them inside, what did he call it? Asymmetrical warfare. And honestly, any chud watching that segment on Fox News, they probably glossed over the part where Jesse talks about how he exploits their minds, right? Describing how easy it is to mold their brains, to sever them from reality. Any chud watching that segment, I bet the only thing they remember, the only thing they got mad at was this Sri Lankan transgenders getting electric cars.
Trump is the new Adolf.
Welcome to the Chud Report. I'm your host, MJ. If it's your first time here, you like this video, make sure you subscribe. Today's episode is going to be where Jesse Waters got that blueprint from that he's describing. Where the Republican Party got that blueprint. They got it from Stinky Steve here. Jesse points out someone says something on social media. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter where it comes from. It could be me. It could be you. It could be cat turd, right? It could be something we made up. It could be something they made up. Something cat turd made up. You think this guy right here has the integrity of a journalist? And Tucker 2.0 comes in and he tells you how the sausage is made, right? Musk retweets it. Rogan podcasts it. And then Fox broadcasts it back to the people that were circle jerking it around, that made it up online, right? And by the time it reaches everybody, millions of people have seen it. Jesse calls it free money. And what we're actually talking about, right?
Expressing information.
Expressing information. Not reality, not facts, just vibes. Expressing information from the soy right. And what Jesse is describing is the ultimate realization of this guy right here. This guy. If chlamydia somehow contracted AIDS and was reincarnated as a fart, Steve Bannon took one thing from Andrew Breitbart when he took over. It wasn't shampoo. It wasn't soap. He might have took a little cocaine. Okay, maybe Steve Bannon took two things from Andrew Breitbart, right? He took some of his cocaine. But the main thing he took was the idea that politics is downstream from culture. And one of Stinky Steve's biggest inspiration was a guy named Alexander Dugin. This guy right here. A Russian fascist who calls himself Putin's Rasputin. Putin's Rasputin. Very clever. Alexander Dugin. I guess Steve Bannon could call himself Steve Dugin. All right, let's cut that. Dugin's whole thing, destroy Western democracy. Hey, that's us. That's us that he wants to destroy. He wants Russia to absorb Ukraine, the Baltics, and basically anything not nailed down because he thinks liberalism is a disease that must be wiped out. All this seems very familiar.
I mean, this whole sort of like, they call it like Trump derangement syndrome.
And the reason it's familiar is because people like Bannon is a big fan, a huge fan, right? Because while Dugin dreams of a Russian-led empire, Bannon's ultimate wet dream, there's an image for the channel, Bannon having a wet dream. His ultimate wet dream is a white nationalist America where hardworking white men can finally thrive. and maybe play Call of Duty, babe. Maybe play Call of Duty for an hour or two without having to fix the garage again. But anyway, I digress. Kind of a conundrum of this episode, right? I'm not here. Bannon is not like an Elon Musk figure, right? He's not like a Trump figure who fell backwards into power because they were set up on third base, sent to every prep school, sent to every Ivory college. Bannon is actually, it sucks to say, because as forementioned, fascist Nazi, he's smart, he's well-read. The other figure Bannon cites in his education is Charles Maurras. Hey, Charles, what's that? What's that behind you? That's Maurras. That's Maurras. Charles Maurras was an actual Nazi collaborator who helped hand Jews over to the Gestapo. This is one of Steve Bannon's influences. This is who he's melding into the ideology he's been pushing. Bannon loves Maurras because he made a distinction between the real country, as he called it. That's the good people, white, conservative, unshowered, I imagine. Hey, at least I'm one of those things. And the legal country. So the real country was them, the people, the white Nazis. The legal country was the bad people, the government, the journalists, and basically AOC, right? This sounds familiar. To me, it should sound familiar to you. This is the entire MAGA worldview. And at this point, I think it goes without saying that these guys are not pushing the master race, right? I mean, right? Dugin and Maurras, Bannon, they all look like they crawled out of a hobbit hole with a trench foot, right? I mean, if we all wanted a master race, if we all wanted to put that together, we'd all look like Randy Orton, even the women. Perfect human specimen. Hey, I watched Randy Orton wrestle. I'll fix the garage later. Come on. This connection underscores Bannon's engagement with far-right ideologies, right? This is where he's coming from. This is what he's pushing. And if it shocks you that all of this is derived from fascist, Nazi, theologies, well then, welcome to the channel, because you obviously haven't been here before. You can't throw a rock at CPAC at any Republican convention at a Trump rally and not hit a Nazi. You can't throw 100 rocks and not hit 100 Nazis. You can't throw 1,000 rocks and not hit 1,000 Nazis. And if you don't believe me, just try it. No, honestly, try it. Throw some rocks. Throw 1,000 rocks. And to push these ideologies, Steve Bannon realized that politics is downstream from culture. And that's what this intern sniffer right here is talking about. Steve Bannon's grip on the media and how to manipulate it exactly how he wants. Think about what Jesse is saying, right? A completely siloed media, an ecosystem. Now think of the last time you try to talk to a Republican relative, a Republican friend, anybody about politics, right? It's probably been about 15 years before you could actually talk to someone and agree on a given set of facts, like the sky is blue. That did just happen out of nowhere. This was created by right-wing media. These people have been radicalized by right-wing media. QAnon didn't just come out of nowhere, right? And Jesse, to your face, says a journalist investigating a story, and then the evening news picking that up, and it disappears like it's nothing, right? Then even ending up, Jesse ends that segment with this crazy trans story. It's farcical! If you're not in that cult, it's a dunk on those people to just show that you can tell them to their face what you're doing to them, still give them red meat at the end, and they will fall in line. It's a dunk. And people keep asking me, they're like, when these people finally see their tax returns, when the consumer agency's gone, the consumer protection agency's gone, and $18 billion, $19 billion flies out of everyone's pockets again, Once their groceries triple, which has already happened for me, gas is going up this week. Once they lose their jobs, do you think the Chuds will finally realize they've been screwed? People ask me this, and just yesterday, Trump declared himself the king, and the White House Twitter followed up with it, right? 10 years ago, these people right here, they would go on for hours about states' rights. They go on for hours about the Constitution, how Obama wanted to be a king. Obama never had the White House post he was a king, right? About America. Actually, it's a republic. It's not a democracy, it's a republic. They go on about privacy and the government overreaching. These people that are now, people are asking me, do you think they will ever turn on Trump? And I guess President Elon now, you know? These people lost their minds over that unchristian, that devil-worshipping practice of giving people health care. President Elon is in the IRS with these 20-year-old Hitler youths. One of them got fired from his last job for selling private information. He's in there taking every piece of information about us so it can be used, it can be weaponized. Do you think they'll finally wake up? Do you think if the Republicans, if you took them at their word for the past 20, 25 years, if you took them at their word, this is the nightmare scenario. It's a president declaring himself king, states' rights out the window, and taking all your personal information, right? Now, the truth is that a large group of people who look like me feel like their opportunities are decreasing. We're not living better than our parents. The world is getting scarier and it's getting more complicated, right? Their phones have made them believe that each of them is the main character. Rampant individualism through that phone. When they can't even pass the 6th grade. You know, if you can't read above a 6th grade level, you're not the main character in this. Unless, of course, the movie's Forrest Gump, which, you know, the last episode was about. Then you're the main character. Or I Am Sam is probably more apt for the modern day Republican Party. Then you're the main character. Steve Bannon saw this push towards, you know, individualism, main character syndrome. He understood it, right? First and foremost, right out the gate, Steve Bannon transformed Breitbart News, right? Andrew Breitbart, and don't try to sue me again, Susie Breitbart. She actually tried to, 10 years ago, it's a whole other story we could get into. Maybe it was more than 10 years ago. I said that Andrew Breitbart was a cokehead, and he died from a cocaine overdose. And she tried to sue me on that. Kind of crazy, right? So I guess, disclaimer, Andrew Breitbart was a cokehead. Andrew Breitbart was a cokehead who loved attention. We have one of those down the street in our neighborhood. His name's Randy. He has no teeth, does tons of cocaine, has various opinions, very strong opinions about vaccines. But that was basically Andrew Breitbart. He's basically crackhead Randy down the street. But Bannon made Breitbart into a hub for alt-right discourse. He saw a path for it. He grew it, aiming to shift culture conversations and consequently political statements. And this is the scariest thing about Bannon, is that he, unlike Elon, right? Unlike these oligarchs, they're all kind of doing it for themselves. But Bannon, for all his faults, believes in his movement, even if that is a bowel movement. And Bannon's collaboration with Cambridge Analytica exemplifies his cultural approach. I mean, I give Cambridge Analytica an outsized amount of credit for winning the election for Trump in 2016. By harvesting the data on social media, they were able to micro-target certain races of people, certain groups of people to the neighborhood, and then feed them propaganda ads. I don't know, Hillary saying super predators to black neighborhoods. Hillary saying something about Mexicans to Mexican neighborhoods. You know what I mean? But what we found is they had individual profiles on every single person. I mean, I imagine all that info Musk and the Hitler Youth are grabbing now can be merged with that to see how you voted, to see which way you swing, and then decide if you get a tax return back. And if you're wondering who was micro-targeted on Facebook, who's being micro-targeted right now, there's a pretty simple test, all right? Here's the test. Are you on Facebook? Do you engage regularly on Facebook? Right? Then you're the moron that they're grabbing it from, all right? This strategy underscores Bannon's commitment to molding culture perceptions as a precursor to political change. An epiphany that has brought us to this point in history. I will give Bannon credit for that. Your dumb uncle was on social media. He saw a girl with big boobs talking about something, and 3 hours later, he thought Hillary ate babies. It really was that simple. Because the American people are that simple. Jesse Waters exemplified it at the top of this episode. And since Bannon started talking out about Elon Musk, there have been a lot of my enemy is my enemy is my enemy, you know, with Steve Bannon calling Elon a parasitic illegal immigrant, something that is kind of hard to argue at this point.
The very few people in MAGA world who will speak out against Elon Musk. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, but Elon's doing some great work. You know, I'm a huge supporter of the deconstruction administrative state and what Elon's doing in Doge. I'm a big supporter of that. I hope, and my prayer is that these cuts are real. I wish him a lot of luck, but I am not a transhumanist. I'm very anti-oligarch. There's certain things about the oligarchs, not just Elon, but also the oligarchs that, the Bezos and Zuckerberg particularly, all these guys don't support us. And people have to understand, the CNN audience understand, they don't support MAGA.
Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan, said how big a Trump fan he was. You're not convinced?
No, he's a criminal. What are you talking about? He put up $500 million to steal the election in 2020.
And how much did Musk give? Steve Bannon says he's not a transhumanist, although I do think he is transitioning into Rosie O'Donnell, right? You know what I mean? Hey, you guys want to play a game? Let's play a quick game. You tell me. You tell me if this is Steve Bannon or if this is Rosie O'Donnell.
So I don't know. I will let you know tomorrow if I do, in fact, have herpes.
Cool. We'll all be waiting. So was that Steve Bannon or Rosie O'Donnell? Believe it or not, it was Steve Bannon.
Up crony capitalism and Elon Musk. And by the way, when we cut him off, he went begging the CCP, and that's why they have the joint venture in Shanghai, the Tesla, which is 100% of his value, right? This guy lives on government contracts and taxpayer subsidies.
Agreed.
Okay, it's all. We're going to get Joe Allen in here for a second. Elon Musk, once again, brother, I'm smart enough to tell you no to your face, and I'm evil enough to be able to expose you as a running dog for the greatest enemy this nation's ever had. You are a war profiteer. You're sleeping with the enemy, brother, and you've been doing it because you're not an American nationalist.
Here we go.
You're not even an American. All you are is a globalist, okay? A globalist. And you will go where anybody writes you a check, and you would take it from Adolf Hitler himself because you're taking it from people that are as bad as Adolf Hitler. The murderous regime of the Chinese Communist Party, which you praised on their 100th anniversary. Let me bring
Steve Bannon saying you'd take money from Adolf Hitler. I don't know if that's a compliment or if he's trying to dig at Elon. Many of those arguments could come from this show, an episode on Steve Bannon. But Steve Bannon's biggest problem is that he's been replaced in the Oval Office, right? And he's not even replaced. He can only dream. Steve Bannon could only dream of standing behind the Resolute desk, spouting off, this stuff that he's read up on, these ideas for 30 minutes uninterrupted while a little kid rubs boogers on Trump. He could only dream of that. That's why he's so mad. He wants it to be him back there. And the difference between my enemy is my friend's enemy, whatever the saying is that, I don't want oligarchs or neo-Nazis in charge of my country. You know what I mean? Bannon owned Trump during the first election because of these people. That's who Bannon brought into the fold, He melded them into that base, an engaged base of angry, low-information whites that bled over to low-information, angry white women. But this time around is much different. Bannon doesn't have an office right next to Trump's in the White House, right? Because Trump has been bought by the elites, by the oligarchs. There can't be any doubt, even in the staunchiest Chud brain, to watch Trump sit for 30 minutes and let someone else talk over him while a kid tells him to shush. There can't be any doubt in your brain at this point that he is beholden. He is bought off to the oligarchs, in particular Elon Musk, who spent $300 million to get him in that office. Gave people $1 million a day leading up to the election, right? This is the difference right here. These two people, this is the difference between Bannon and Elon Musk. Bannon is a neo-Nazi, a white nationalist. And Elon Musk is a slave owner. Both of them want to destroy our democratic republic because it empowers the people. You know what I mean? That's why they're both aiming for it. I like what he's doing, taking apart the state. I just don't like oligarchs.
Of the deconstruction administrative state.
You know what I mean? Bannon is legitimately, as much as I hate to give credit to him, he's legitimately an evil genius. He really is. He's a smart guy. There's no pretending he's not smart. I mean, you hold him up next to this guy. Musk is by no stretch of the imagination a genius. We're all seeing that. He's just a product of, a daddy who owned a mine, who sent him to every prep school imaginable, was able to buy up companies and then LARP as the smartest man in the world, LARP as Iron Man. You know what I mean? But the thing is, MAGA is completely addicted to Elon's money. They're completely addicted to Peter Thiel's money. They're going to be completely... The thing that Bezos and Zuckerberg want the most is to get in on the selling of that money to MAGA, to become one of their dealers on it so they get addicted to them too, so they can be safe. This is the very definition of an oligarchy. This is the very definition of a kleptocracy. And at this point, there's no way MAGA could go cold turkey off of that money. Be easier for Randy, the crackhead down the street, to go cold turkey off that crack, right? Get off that crack! Randy, if you're watching this episode, get off that crack! Like I said, a neo-Nazi or a slave owner. That's what you have in this Republican Party. And they're paving the way for this 80-year-old shitting his pants and being told to shut up by a kid. Pretending he's the king now. How much more pathetic can you get? MJ, will this coming storm break the cult members out of this trance? People keep asking me. Bannon seems to think so, right? Don't cut Medicaid. Because if you're a Trump supporter, at this point, 9 years in, we all know you have at least one handicap, right? The truth Bannon understands is that most red states will be belly up within a month. Utah's doing okay. But I'm from Utah, so I'll take credit for that. They'd be belly up in a month without that blue state federal money. And they know it. Like Mississippi's not out there thinking that they can make it on their own, right? Mississippi, the perfect red state, it never recovered from slavery. I tell you this to make a point, right? I'm seeing the same. Let them fight. The inner fighting will get them. As we saw the first time around. It's not like he's fighting with General Kelly this time around, right? You got a neo-Nazi fighting with a slave owner. And then people, I can't believe it. I'm agreeing with Steve Bannon. I'm agreeing with old MAGA. And just that statement in particular, that we can call it old MAGA, that Trump's been around so long. There's an old MAGA now. That's depressing. But here's my point. Steve Bannon created the biodome that Jesse Waters bragged about at the top of this episode. Bannon is the architect for a very temporary structure. But that temporary structure gets the country into a permanent structure. An oligarchy, a kleptocracy. How does that look? Well, it's a techno-feudalistic economy where the survival of each person will be directly connected to these oligarchs and depend on your worker output. Again, I'm not going to say it. Okay, I'm going to say it. I made this episode about it a year ago. This was always the plan. Bannon envisioned a white nationalistic country for hardworking white men to prosper. That's what he wanted. Elon wants women to become baby factories, to pump out more slave labor, just like his daddy. And spoiler alert, there's always been people like this in history. There's always going to be people like this in the future. The people I'm most disappointed in. And at this point, I guess just heartbroken because I don't believe in the people in this country anymore, right? These same people. The ones on Medicaid. The ones whose education capped out at 6th grade. the ones who believe they are the main character, they will be cheering their own slavery because of these exact structures that have been put into place. And it's not because they're evil, right? My friends, my family, the ones who support this, I don't believe that they're inherently evil. It's because they are idiots. They're stupid. These are stupid people to fall for. There's no easy way to say it anymore, right? At this point, Steve Bannon understood that very fact. And that's why we're screwed. That's why they will win. The Chud Report. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. You know, it was my birthday last week, so we drank some wine. I need to get an episode up in the interim. I hope you missed me. If it's your first time here, you like content like this. I mean, you shouldn't like content like this. You shouldn't like episodes like today. It's a Debbie Downer. But if it's informative, slightly, I don't even want to call it entertaining. Anyway, just subscribe if you like the video. That's all I'm trying to say. And that's all I got for you today.
Dana, we are waging a 21st century information warfare campaign against the left, and they are using tactics from the 1990s. They are holding tiny press conferences, tiny little rallies. They're screaming into the ether on MSNBC. This is what you call top-down command and control. You get your talking points from a newspaper, and you put it on the broadcast network, and then it disappears. What you're seeing on the right is asymmetrical. It's like grassroots guerrilla warfare. Someone says something on social media, Musk retweets it, Rogan podcasts it, Fox broadcasts it, and by the time it reaches everybody, millions of people have seen it. It's free money. And we're actually talking about expressing information. They are suppressing information. If you watch CBS News, they don't even talk about the scandals that the money is going to. Sri Lankan transgenders are getting electric cars. It's costing millions of dollars. They don't tell you about that.